Hey guys, how are we doing? So we're back on another Mother's Basement video! And it's about My Hero Academia. Yeah! Hey, where'd my light go? I really love Season 3. Season 3 was awesome. I can't wait for Season 4. I want to see the movie. I think the movie's getting screened in the UK in December, which will be awesome. But until then, let's watch this interesting title of a video, which is called The Redemption of Bakugo. A couple of you have suggested it, so I was like, oh, okay, check that out. Bakugo's a likeable character. Now. It wasn't when we first started, and I think that's where this is going to be going. Because, yeah, it's a cool dude now. That fight was awesome between Bakugo and Midoriya. That was pretty cool. Anyway, let's get into this. The Redemption of Bakugo.
It would be very difficult for any anime character to make a worse first impression than Katsuki Bakugo.
Right, yeah.
He's introduced as a belligerent, unapologetic, borderline sadistic bully who takes joy in beating up on those weaker than him. The first thing we ever see him do is brag about how great he is and berate his entire class, especially Deku, for thinking they can even compare to him. And the second thing he does is destroy Deku's property and tell him to kill himself. He's reprehensible, arrogant, mean-spirited. And he's my favorite character in the series. And with the second fight with Deku having finally been animated, I can at last explain why.
So good.
Also, that fight means that my What's in an OP for the new arc is officially spoiler safe,
decent
so
video
if
as
you've been
well.
waiting to watch that...
And I have done a reaction video to that.
Obviously, I didn't always have this opinion. When My Hero Academia first started, I hated Bakugo's guts, and I thought that he was one of the weakest characters in the story. But as the show and the manga have gone on, exploring his character in greater depth and allowing him to grow along the way, I've come to absolutely love him.
Yeah,
and I'm not alone. In Shonen Jump's annual popularity polls, he's shot up through the rankings to first place, taking votes away from Deku and Todoroki in the second poll, the one that gave us that delightful fantasy AU from the third ED, and pulling in almost twice as many votes as his rivals, who were nearly tied in the third. It's no mean feat to take a character that much of your audience straight up despises and make him the standout favorite.
Yeah, that's difficult.
How did Kohei Horikoshi go about redeeming this irredeemable bastard?
How did he?
There are three things that you need to do to properly redeem a bad guy in your story. Establish that he has a good side in the first place, demonstrate why, from his point of view, his past bad actions seemed reasonable, and make him want to be better. The key to how Hiroaka does this lies in its use of perspective. Throughout the story, we see Bakugo mostly as others see him. Belligerent, short-tempered, condescending, aggressive, basically a nuisance at the best of times and a bully at the worst. He's considerably more abrasive than even your average shonen rival, who tend to be either brash and stubborn but good-natured, or quiet, brooding, cool types. And when you lay out his character traits on paper, it becomes clear why that is. Bakugo is proud and confident and wants everyone in a 3-block radius to know it. He's 100% sure of his own abilities, and with good reason, since despite his shortcomings, he has both incredible natural power and a remarkable mind that lets him take full advantage of it. He's driven to overcome those he sees as worthy rivals, and hungry for any opportunity he can find to prove that he's the best. His overbearing personality pushes others away from him, leaving him with few friends, but he's got a strange magnetism to him, and those who do stick with him,
I like how they hang out, that's cool.
Comrades. So, he's overconfident, loudmouthed, energetic, passionate about fighting and winning, obsessed with his rivals, and deep down, more than anything, he wants to be the best like no one ever was. Bakugo isn't a typical rival character. He was forged from the mold of a stock shonen protagonist. To be clear, Bakugo isn't the first rival character to fit this mold by a long shot. Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z exists as essentially a dark mirror of the pride, ambition, and thirst for a good fight that drives Goku. But the shonen battle genre has evolved substantially since Dragon Ball codified it, and Bakugo's characterization is able to account for those 35 years of development in DBZ derivatives. Specifically, he's clearly based on Naruto, whose influence can be seen in his blonde, spiky puffball hair, his propensity for shouting like a jackass, and his name, which is 3 syllables long and contains the same vowel sounds in the same order. It's not a perfect conversion of the shonen hero archetype. He doesn't really seem to care about the power of friendship, and he's not an underdog at all, but on a fundamental level, Bakugo is driven by the same motivation motivations. The reason he's not sympathetic, like Naruto, is that we can see him from outside his own head, from the perspective of, say, the townspeople whose days are ruined by him running around putting graffiti on things, or the classmates whose schoolwork is thrown off by him acting like a jackass. People who just see an ill-tempered, misbehaving kid, not the ambitious hero underneath. And because he's not the protagonist, in fact he makes the protagonist's life hell, we're not inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that there's more to him. To be honest, he was one of my biggest complaints about the first season of My Hero. He seemed like nothing but a one-note, cliched bully. But it's that exact complaint that gives him the potential to really surprise me.
Yeah, because as soon as he starts to change, it's like, whoa.
Show, that surprise finally landed this season when Bakugo was kidnapped by the
oh my god.
It's a scenario that anyone familiar with shonen manga tropes will immediately connect with the Sasuke retrieval arc from Naruto, which creates a pretty obvious expectation. This is the moment where Bakugo, like Sasuke before him, will pay off the foreshadowing established by his prior mistakes and make the transition from established rival to full-on major antagonist. Except that never happens.
Yeah.
Shigaraki offers to let him join them, even playing on his base desire to win at all costs, but Bakugo doesn't bite. He bites back.
Just quality. I was just like, yo, awesome.
He gets an opportunity and adamantly declaring that the only way he wants to win is by winning like All Might. This is a truly heroic moment. Bakugo is keeping his ideals, Sore, and fighting for them, even though it puts him in harm's way. For me, reading the manga, this single moment did so much to turn around my opinion of Bakugo as a character, and to improve my opinion of the series' story as a whole. Hiroaka has never been shy about toying with the tropes laid out by its shonen forebears, but here is the moment where it becomes crystal clear that it's fully aware of the cliches and willing to subvert them if it will make for a more powerful story beat. What's really great about this moment is that it doesn't suddenly undo the things that made Bakugo so despicable in the first place. In fact, it shows how his stubborn, shit-talking, belligerent attitude can be a positive thing when pointed in the right direction.
Yeah.
Admittedly, his aim even after this is pretty scattershot, but we can see that his image of what a hero should be isn't totally misguided. And that single realization turns everything about this character on its head. Because as soon as we realize how much of Bakugo's self-image is tied up in being a hero, we can start seeing him through that lens and relate his behavior to heroes we know, namely Naruto. And I think this subconscious connection accounts for a lot of the intensely positive response that he's gotten following this moment, as reflected by the second poll, which came out shortly after this arc in the manga. The show builds on this in some really great ways leading into Bakugo's second fight with Deku, but the positive impression that it leaves also makes it really fun to rewatch what's come before and reevaluate Kacchan's past actions. Since this isn't the first time that Bakugo has proven himself to be better than you'd give him credit for if you're paying attention. During the tournament arc, when everyone else is essentially coddling Uraraka, Bakugo gives their fight his all and openly says that she's not as fragile as her friends seem to think she is. While he's aggressive and cocky, he always shows respect for the strength of his opponents, possibly something he learned after his first narrow loss to Deku in training. And while his anger at Todoroki after the tournament is a little extreme, it comes from the same place. He knows Todoroki is strong, respects him as a rival, and he's angry to not be shown the same respect back, to not have a chance to prove his strength in a fair fight. Were he to dial his response back from this literally psychotic extreme, it would be understandable, even admirable. But then that's kind of always been Bakugo's biggest failing. For all his raw power and fighting ability, for all his intelligence when it comes to analyzing other people's quirks and strategies, he kinda sucks at people. He has a lot of difficulty both in expressing himself and understanding others, except notably when it comes to picking apart their fighting techniques, and his main tool for coping with that is getting mad. To be clear, that's not a good coping strategy, and it doesn't justify the way that he treats others, but it does make him a lot more three-dimensional and a bit more understandable. And I'll admit, as someone who had anger issues and difficulty socializing when I was younger, it gives me a bit of a soft spot for him, even though my experience with bullies has kind of the opposite effect. When it comes to Deku, Bakugo's awful behavior is also rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of our hero's intent, but one a bit more specific than his general failure to get other people. I don't want to get too armchair psychologist here, but Bakugo's obsession with proving his own superiority over others is a hallmark of of a classic inferiority complex. Deep down, Bakugo is terrified at the possibility that he might not live up to the expectations placed on him by others and himself for having such a strong quirk. To cope with this and avoid even admitting the possibility of failure or being too weak, he projects all of his feelings of inferiority onto the quirkless Deku. When Deku shows signs of not knowing his place, it threatens Bakugo's self-image, so he interprets any attempt on Deku's part to help him out or become a hero as a personal insult, hence all the bullying. And naturally, because so much of his self-image is tied up in this idea of an inherently lesser Deku, when he finds out that Deku has a quirk, he thinks he was just hiding it to fuck with him, which, coupled with coming to a school where many of the students are just straight up better than him, only makes him madder. Again, none of this excuses how Bakugo treats Deku, but it does explain it. It demonstrates that he's not just an asshole for no reason, and that if he can understand his own shortcomings and misunderstandings, and work to his strengths, he can become a better person. All he really needs is a moment of clarity and the will to do it. And his fight with Deku provides exactly that. Now, there's a lot in this fight to break down, and I'll probably touch on it in greater depth in a future anime because I'm really impressed with how Bones took the layouts from the manga, which were already incredible, and translated them into animation, but this fight reveals a few really important steps in Bakugo's character arc. First off, he confesses that he's been racked with guilt over the fact that All Might was forced into retirement.
Yeah, that was something, wasn't it?
In his eyes, this happened because he was weak, and he's wrong. It happened because Shigaraki misjudged him. It's not his fault, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is that for the first time in the entire series, Bakugo is showing real vulnerability and opening up to another person. Deku, no less, even if it is by lashing out. This also highlights something vital to understanding Bakugo. Deep down, under all his bravado and aggressive behavior, he's just a socially inept little kid who has no idea what he's doing. A kid who is rightfully scared and confused after a traumatic ordeal, and who feels responsible for what it costs to save him. Lots of, heck, I'd say most kids are shitty. Being decent is something they have to be taught, and Bakugo has an opportunity to be taught that now. In service of that lesson, realizing that Deku was chosen as All Might's successor means Bakugo is faced with a difficult truth. Deku has something that was recognized by the person they both admire most, that Bakugo just doesn't. And though his way of figuring out what that is, kicking the crap out of each other, isn't exactly mature, the fact that he can acknowledge that he's lacking anything at all is in itself a huge step for him. And the question that he's asking is fundamental to both his and Deku's character. Is the vision of All Might that he aspires to emulate, the hero who always wins, in some way wrong? To make a long story short, yes, but so is Deku's image of a hero who saves everyone no matter what. His self-sacrificing, break all my limbs but lose a little less than the other guy model of heroics might cost other people less than Bakugo's, but it's equally flawed. What both Deku and Bakugo take away from this fight, with All Might's help, is that they both need to learn from each other if they want to grow up to be like their hero. And the funny thing is, just because Bakugo doesn't have One for All, that doesn't mean that he can't carry on All Might's legacy. In the fight with All for One, All Might effectively gave up his powers in order to secure Bakugo's future as a hero. The same symbolic gesture that he made in passing One for All down to Deku, effectively marking Bakugo as a worthy successor to his legacy in the process. And by bringing him in on his and Deku's secret, All Might essentially confirms him in that role and gives him something tangible to live up to. He's got a long way to go to be the hero.
I like that he was like, nobody else knows. No,
but the very next day we can see him inching in the right direction, holding a polite but terse conversation with Deku for the first time in years. Bakugo's still not a great person, and he still needs to make up for telling Deku to kill himself, but that's exactly what makes him a great character. He's a flawed person trying to be better, and he comes by both his bad traits and his good ones naturally. While I'm sure some people out there can relate to him, I think the real reason that Hiroaka fans love Bakugo so much is that he has a fascinating, organic character arc that takes advantages of all the series' biggest strengths. Kohei Horikoshi has a knack for making bad people sympathetic and interesting without diminishing their faults, and he's also really good at portraying cheerful optimism, so it's really fun to see him transform a strong example of the one into maybe something resembling the other. Also, Bakugo's growth spurs the growth of Deku, and vice versa, so the strong writing in his arc ends up bleeding into the rest of the series and improving it as a whole.
Yeah,
He
definitely agree with that.
also crucially plays with the same enjoyable shonen tropes that serve as the foundation of Hiroaka's success, but I'll be talking about that in greater depth in a few weeks when I discuss what's so great about My Hero Academia,
Cool.
and finally bring my discussions of this show to a close until, I don't know,
Season
the next
4.
season comes out. Speaking of greatness, today's sponsor, Bookwalker,
That'd be really cool.
official light novel and manga
I'd love
ebook
to see what's so
store,
great
is
about My Hero
prompting me to
Academia,
pay
'cause there's a lot.
homage to our Lord
There's a
and
lot that's great
Savior
about it.
Haruhi-sama, who is celebrating her 15th anniversary this week. If you feel like praising Haruhi properly, I highly recommend picking up some ebooks this weekend and using the promo code BASEMENT when you check out for a 600 yen discount. By doing
Cool.
so, you won't just be paying fealty to the one true god, you'll also be getting some sick rewards. Buy any Haruhi light novel or manga, including The Disappearance of Nagata Yuki-chan and the gag manga Haruhi-chan before October 9th, and you'll be entered to win one of 5 digitally autographed Shikishi boards or one of 2 rare sets of sacred Haruhi idols in her preferred form, adorable Nendoroids. I honestly
Nendoroids
can't
are
decide whether I like
expensive.
the Summer Festival Nendoroid Petite set or the Disappearance version full Nendo
I'll stick to my
set
Funko
more.
Pops.
There's also special bookshelf skins and wallpapers up for grabs, so what are you waiting for?
So many of them.
Get praising Haruhi today, and don't forget to use the promo code BASEMENT for a 600 yen discount when you check out. Let me know in the comments below who your favorite character from My Hero Academia is, and while you're down there, don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos from me every Tuesday and Saturday. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.
Sweet. That was a good video. Yeah. I can't wait for season 4, man. Season 3 was so good. And yeah, that was a big turning point when... Because I honestly thought Bakugo was going to turn to the dark side. And then he just went, nope. And it's like, wow. And then he's fighting back. And it's just like, yo, we cool dude. And yeah, season 3 had a lot of cool stuff happen in it. It was so good. So good. So, yeah. Thank you guys for suggesting that, and thank you guys very much for watching. What did you guys think of that? What did you guys think it is? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below, let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. I'll see you guys, as all you guys, next time.